For the purposes of today's Tales from the Collections, we are going to return to our quarter session records. Prior to the creation of the County Council, the quarter sessions dealt with far more than just criminal matters. It was the administrative body which ran the county for centuries. It operated by way of a court which met 4 times a year, hence the name. It was comprised of magistrates or justices of the peace. These are people who tended to be drawn from prominent families, landowning families in the main. As a body, the range of business could be huge. It could include the repair, or rather disrepair, of bridges, the repair and upkeep of roads, and or obstructions to roads, and the setting of going rates for wages, as can be seen here from an example of an order book listing occupations with their corresponding rates of pay, such as a carpenter with men under him and their journeymen and servants. In addition to dispute resolution, the quarter sessions were the link between the government and the local inhabitants, so there are classes of records dealing with that interaction, such as taxation, and you'll often find returns and certificates, as here with hair powder certificates, which are a byproduct of the hair powder tax, a clever way of helping to finance the Napoleonic Wars by taxing avid followers of fashion. And there is plenty of crime-related material too, and here we have an example of a calendar of prisoners from 1899, and we have James Rothwell, a cycle worker, with a list of convictions for theft. But back to our records dealing with Papists. These mostly reflect legislation passed in the 18th century. Laws had been passed previously which barred Catholics from entering the professions or holding civilian or military office. From 1716, Catholics were required to enrol documents such as wills and conveyances involving the transfer of property. So we have a series of deeds in the quarter session records, and these include parchment rolls of transactions. So effectively, the transaction is set out in full. So in this particular example, on the 3rd of February 1717, Ralph Sheldon of Bearley releases Thomas Walker, the elder of Brailes, yeoman, a messuage in Upper Brailes. These records can therefore be a fairly good substitution for missing title deeds, and to the extent that parties are named, are quite a useful source of information for family historians. You can find out more information by looking at our online catalogue, and you can see that the essential details of each transaction has been summarised for you. Catholics were required to register names and estates at the quarter sessions or face seizure of their property. The Forfeited Estates Commission was responsible for overseeing the seizure of estates, but their records are held at the National Archives. That said, some of the returns filed at the quarter sessions for the County of Warwickshire remain, and these can be found in QS 62. This particular example relates to Anne, Lady Viscountess Dowager Carrington of Wootton Wowen, appointed her attorney to register her name in the next quarter sessions pursuant to the Act obliging Papists to register their names and real estates. This relates to her properties in Warwickshire, and you can see that we have a list of those estates giving the names of the tenants and a brief description of the land and the basis on which the tenants held it. It also gives the value of that land. So if we take the first example, we've got William Payne, who has a lease for a term of 9 years of a farmhouse and other land called Whitley Farm, and he pays an annual rent of £55. Parish constables were obliged to compile returns of Papists within their parish. The Record Office has a series of returns for the year 1744 relating to 47 parishes. This particular example is the return of George Underhill, who was the constable for the parish of Ilmington, and it contains 23 names. I hope this has brought you a small selection of the material held in the Quarter Session Records at Warwickshire County Record Office, reflecting the impact of legislation on the lives of Catholics in the 17th and 18th centuries. Notwithstanding the unhappy circumstances, they do provide a rich resource into people, property, and their affairs.